Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections here for Sunday, January 24th. We're getting today's play of the day, a quick recap of what happened yesterday. For yesterday's play of the day, we ended up giving out Colgate minus 12.5 as they took on Bucknell. Game was supposed to take place at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and at about 1:04, a game got canceled because of COVID. So, happened at the last minute, kind of upsetting, but either way, happens, especially in college basketball now. So, we had no action there. And for the UFC plays that I gave out in the joint video, Scott Steen, those were a disaster. Went over, was not a fun time. Pretty crazy card with the upsets. I know Roundtree lost as a minus 450 favorite, which hurt me. McGregor lost, of course, at minus 300 and change. That was a pretty entertaining round and a half between him and Poirier. You also had Chandler ended up beating Hooker in another upset. Really just a ton of underdogs were barking, and you had a pretty entertaining UFC card in the main event, in the main card in general. But for today's play of the day, we're going to be looking at the NFL. I know I'm usually talking about college basketball or something involving basketball, but NBA wasn't that impressed by, and for college, really not a great card as most of the teams ended up playing yesterday, and there aren't really many games that I really like. So for that reason, we're going to be talking about the NFC title game in the NFL. It's going to be taking place at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And for the play of the day, we're going to be taking the Green Bay Packers here at home, minus 3.5, which is available on Bet Online at minus 110, a time recording of 2:20 a.m. Eastern Time. A couple reasons why I like the Packers in this spot. First of all, I think we all know how good Green Bay has looked over the last couple of weeks. Green Bay has looked like an absolute world beater. And Tampa, even though it did win its last game against the Saints, I think we can agree that the game was a little bit dicey, and New Orleans was definitely a threat to run away with the game before Jared Cook fumbled, which completely changed the complexion of the game. But Green Bay is 8-1 at home this season and 4-1 ATS in the last 5 home games. Rodgers, the MVP so far this season. Last week, he was great once again, 296 passing yards with 3 total touchdowns. But the main reasons why I simply think that Green Bay is a little bit undervalued right now is because of the fact that overall, I just think Green Bay is a much better team. I think the main reason why people are scared to jump against Tampa Bay is because of Tom Brady, which of course, makes sense because Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. However, it doesn't change the fact that last week, he really did not look that great against New Orleans. I know he struggled in the first half in particular. Finished 18 of 33 for 199 yards. He did have 3 total touchdowns. But it seems like Tampa was gifted a bunch of short fields because Breeze was even worse. And I feel like Brady's mediocre at best performance was kind of swept under the radar. And I just simply think it's not that much of a hot take to say that Rodgers right now is playing like the best or the second best quarterback in the entire league, arguable with Mahomes. And Brady has looked better over the course of the season, but he really hasn't looked that sharp against really top-tier defense and top-tier teams, as most of his great numbers at the end of the year came against teams below 500, like the Falcons, the Lions, etc. And I think that Brady will struggle into this environment. Now, I think that Tampa's offense, which of course has been the talk of the season because of all the weapons that they have offensively, it's a little bit banged up, and I don't think the offense is as good or as reliable as people are making it out to be right now at this stage in the season. Of course, the big news, Antonio Brown is out. Now, Brown has been a head case his entire career. Doesn't change the fact that he's still one of the best receivers of all time. And even though he was streaky during his tenure with Tampa Bay, he's definitely a threat on any given play to create separation, as he proved late in the regular season. And I think his absence will be huge, especially now you're going to have to be relying more on Johnson and Miller to fill that void, which is important, because you have to wonder, well, who else do you have on that offense? You have Mike Evans. Mike Evans has been pretty quiet so far in the postseason, and now he will most likely be matched up against Jair Alexander, who is a top 3 corner in the entire league. So I think Evans will be a non-factor in this game. Godwin should have a pretty solid game. I think that's the one guy, but he's had a little bit of a drop issue so far in the postseason. But you're going through the other names here. You have Gronkowski, and he's done absolutely nothing over the past month or so. Going through Gronk's numbers, he has not recorded more than 3 receptions in each of his last 6 games. So he really hasn't done much. Plus, if you want to talk about the ground game with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, Tampa struggled to run the ball all season long, as Tampa is currently ranking 22nd in the entire league in yards per carry. So Tampa hasn't been able to run the ball. Brady, when he faces good defenses that actually send pressure, has looked a little bit at least human. And Tampa's receiving core is a little bit banged up, and I do think that is a problem for this matchup. Whereas Green Bay, I know that Green Bay got smacked against Tampa earlier in the year. I'm throwing it out. It happened so long ago. And if you wonder, well, why are you going to do that? My argument would be throughout the 2 Saints games against Tampa last week, and Tampa still won the game. I think that was too long ago. I'm not going to factor that in. But you look at Green Bay, the defense has definitely picked it up after struggling earlier this season. And Green Bay's defense has impressed me. I think that if you look at how it has played over the last month or so, I know you had 25 points allowed against the Bears. Most of that was in garbage time. Since then, though, pretty solid performances. You look at the last couple of weeks, gave up 16 to the Panthers, 14 to the Titans in the snow, gave up 16 to the Bears, and gave up 18 to the Rams. This defense has been playing well, and I think the weather could also play a factor in this game. There is expected to be a little bit of light snow in this matchup. Now, Green Bay had a little bit of snow last week against the Rams. So, of course, Green Bay, you're used to snow in Wisconsin. I would know since I went to school there. Meanwhile, Tampa, you have a team that's used to warm weather and playing in domes, and now it has to actually go to probably its coldest environment of the year. And I know Brady, of course, accustomed to it. Gronk's accustomed to it. A couple players are. But decent amount of the team, probably not. And I think that could potentially be an underrated factor there. As the game goes on, I'm curious if the weather will play a factor in this environment. But people talk about Tampa's defense and how it's been great lately, and I can agree it has been playing well. However, people always talk about Tampa's number one rush defense, and the issue I have there is that the rush defense didn't exactly play that well last week against Kamara, as Kamara had 85 rushing yards, 4.7 yards per carry, whereas Green Bay went up against the number 4 rush defense in the entire league against the Rams and had 188 rushing yards, 5.2 yards per carry. Green Bay dominated the line of scrimmage in that game against the Rams. And now I know that Aaron Donald was not 100%, and I do understand that, but I'm not willing to just admit that Green Bay is not going to be able to run the ball in this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Green Bay have a little bit more success than people think, and I'm not sure Tampa's going to run the ball that well because it hasn't run the ball that well all season. But going through everything here, I just think Green Bay is a much better team. I think at this stage in their careers, Green Bay has the much better quarterback. I think that it has, as of right now, the better offensive line. I know Tampa's offensive line has played better over the last couple of weeks. Brady still got pressured a lot against the Saints. Rodgers has been barely sacked over the last 2 months. They've done a great job protecting him. The receiving cores, I will still give a slight edge to Tampa, except I still think Devontae Adams is the best receiver on the entire field. And I think Green Bay will benefit from the home field advantage. Plus, I know this doesn't really mean anything if you want to talk about individual games, but if you are a fan of trends, people expect these games to be close because the winner goes to the Super Bowl, of course. But it is worth mentioning that 6 of the last 7 home teams in the NFC title game have won by at least 6 points. These games have not really been that close in recent years, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see Green Bay potentially win this game by double digits. At the end of the day, besides Brady, who I know is always a threat in the playoffs to make noise, is there really much else that you like from Tampa besides a potentially elite defense that has, I'd say, been streaky at times this season? Probably not. I just think Green Bay is the much better team. I think Green Bay will eventually win this game by at least 7 points. I think this will turn into a blowout, but that's just me personally. So the play of the day, once again, here for Sunday, January 24th, is going to be on the Green Bay Packers, -3.5 and -110 on Bet Online. That's been Thomas Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.